Bar for Bar EP Reviews. Vic Mensa, V-Tape. V-Tape is an EP from Chicago rapper Vic Mensa. This follows the release of his Hooligans EP back in 2018, as well as his 9-3 Punks project last year, both of which were a pretty big departure from his album The Autobiography. I personally didn't really care for the projects that he's dropped since The Autobiography, but I've always checked him out just in case I got what really drew me to him in the first place. And I feel like with V-Tape, he's really come back around. In recent years, Vic Mensa has been almost shunned away from hip-hop, either due to rap beefs or just outside factors. As of now, though, I feel like Vic has caught a second wind and might be getting a little bit more attention again. The tape comes in at a total runtime of 26 minutes with 7 tracks, so it's a pretty quick listen. And in those 26 minutes, he says a lot. So if you're concerned about content, don't you worry. The first track is Vendetta. It starts off with the same intro via a Saul Williams sample that Vic Mensa used on the intro to his debut mixtape. This is both a throwback and a way to that he's just saying, yo, I'm that dude. This track is a great intro because Vic's able to show off his rhyming and lyrical skills, basically letting you know what you're in for the rest of this project. It also serves as a good intro because it brings up a lot of the things that Vic's been hearing people talk about in regards to him. He starts to clear some of it up, but he does also say, still alive, I'll tell you dudes a million times, this is a FAQ, fuck all your questions. I mostly enjoy this line because it's funny, but also I get where he's coming from. He's gotten so many people asking him all sorts of questions, which he's probably asked and answered millions of times by now. So he's just tired of it. The title being Vendetta is appropriate as well. Vendetta is kind of like a beef, most often between families, but here's, I think it's more like him trying to prove himself and beat this beef. Here the beef appears to be with rap, where he's basically showing everyone again that he can in fact rap pretty well. Here he's rapping like he has something to prove with this track as well as the rest of the EP. The next track, Machiavelli, is a true sequel to the first song because here we find Vic back to reclaim his throne. The first line, I'm the prince of the city, young Machiavelli, tells you exactly why he's named the track Machiavelli. Machiavelli's most well-known work is The Prince, and Vic uses that title in a way to compare himself to a prince. He also later on references Tupac, who also took on the title of Machiavelli. It could also just be seen as Vic taking cues from Tupac and trying to follow in his footsteps. He also has the word still alive tatted on his stomach, kind of emulating Pac's Thug Life tattoo. Vic then addresses some of his controversies within the rap game with the track Dirt on My Name, primarily talking about the academics, XXXTentacion, and 6ix9ine issues. I really like the song mostly due to the beat and delivery. It's a pretty big song with heavy trap drums that really allows Vic to get some stuff off his chest. The purpose of the song isn't to clear some controversies up, but rather to work through them and push them aside, because they really don't matter now. No one's really talking about them, and especially talking about the people that are involved. Here he acknowledges that he did have rap beef with the whole game, because even though people really like Vic, there's still issues that arise from what Vic says or does. Aside from his beefs with academics and 6ix9ine, I think he could also just be talking about how listeners had beef with him for switching his style up a bit with the tapes in between the Autobiography and this one. But as we get further into the track list, I feel that gets explained a little bit more, or at least understood from the listener's perspective. The next track on this album is X Games, which features a beautiful vocal performance from Snow Allegra, but I mean that goes without saying. This song is about a relationship that's ended, but the people involved aren't quite over it. It starts off sounding like it's a recently ended relationship where the other party just gets drunk and wants Vic to come over, but given the way that Vic's speaking here, it seems like this sort of thing happens often between the two of them. In the second verse, we see Vic reminiscing a bit about the other person, or it could just be someone else entirely. It sounds like on this verse, they've split but still have this friends with benefits sort of situation going on, which Vic's cool with, but he needs a little bit of transparency so he can understand what's happening and so he doesn't catch feelings. Especially because the other person is just kind of quiet and doesn't say anything about it. It's almost like he wants to pursue and restart this relationship, but he knows that he shouldn't because of their past. Things shift back a bit with Bethlehem/SC freestyle. Bethlehem is the birthplace of Jesus, so it sounds like he's making his way there, or he's trying to say that he's from there and wants to spread information like Jesus, and does so by promoting things like togetherness and anti-racism. In the first few lines, we get an idea of where Vic's going now, slightly shifting from his anger-sounding days with the lines, "This is ground zero, I'm rising from the ashes, the first step on the road to Damascus. I redefine my narrative, I'm Frederick Douglass. I can't harbor hate, although they never loved us." This is basically to say that he's been reborn, and now he can't harbor any hate. The hate here is probably towards the racist white people because he mentions that they never loved us. I like the standpoint because it's a bit more peaceful than I feel he would have been in like just a few years ago, really. Throughout this first part, he mentions a lot of things that have been done out of racism, like mass incarceration of black men, telling black people to go back to Africa, and the idea that Section 8 is really just modern-day segregation. The beat then switches and we get to the SC part, which I believe stands for Southside Chicago, because a lot of the things he talks about sound like they're from that particular location rather just in general. I guess it could also be applied to hoods and ghettos as well, but I think it's a little bit more focused, especially because he referenced River North. Too Honest is where I feel Vic gets the most introspective and emotional throughout this project. It also serves as an explanation for some of the things that have been happening with him and his music. The song starts off with a chorus saying, "I called a 5150 on myself, that's how you know I need help." 5150 is the code for temporary involuntary psychiatric commitment of individuals who present danger to themselves or others due to signs of mental illness. This makes sense because Vic's been pretty open about his mental health issues, and it seems that over time that he's realized he needs some help. To call 5150 on yourself means that you've come to some sort of understanding that you're not stable and you may hurt yourself or others, or you already have. In his first verse, he mentions how he had hate from all directions assassinating his character, which is true and definitely isn't something that most people can handle well. He then goes on to explain a little bit more about what was going on with him in terms of music with the lines, "I collapsed in my depression, I just couldn't write for nothing. When I stared at my reflection, all I felt was disgusted." With these lines, I feel like he's talking about the projects prior to this EP, where they weren't too great, but he still tried even though he was in an exceptionally depressed state. It does get hard when you're in deep depression to really do anything, even things that you're normally good at and you'd like to do. It just becomes hard. Him feeling disgusted with his reflection is another symptom of depression because you begin to hate yourself for just being this way, even though there's not a whole lot you can do to stop it. He starts off his second verse with the lines, "Do you know what the fuck it feels like to wake up every day in distress, pissed off at yourself, neglect, so you just lay in your mess?" Basically, in response to his depression, which touches on the reflection a bit from before. Things get even more emotional with the lines, "I found a notebook in my parents' crib from when I was 5. I went inside and said, I hate myself, I want to die. I cried." Vic uses this as a way to tell listeners that he's always had some sort of mental health issues, and it feels like a reminder that children aren't immune to depression and deserve to be checked in on as much as adults, really. With the lines, "I need to be loved, I need to be loved," Vic really pushes for the support that he seemingly didn't get when he was younger, or even currently. This also touches on toxic masculinity a bit, with the idea that men need love too, like even if society teaches them to be stoic and suppress their emotions. The album wraps up with the track Rebirth. This track feels like Vic's come to terms with his downfalls and he's going to focus on a rebirth now. He brings up a point that really makes a lot of sense with the line, "All the aggression that I was reflecting was just depression." A lot of times people don't really associate anger with depression because depression is a less energetic emotion, but truthfully, a lot of depression comes from anger and vice versa. He also addresses some of the missteps in his career with the line, "I dissed a mother's dead son." This is in reference to his comments about XXX after his passing. He's realized that maybe saying it too soon after he passed wasn't the best idea, even though what he was trying to promote may have been something that made sense to him at that time. Overall, this project is a proper return to form for Vic Mensa, no matter how cliche that sounds. I really appreciated this project, and I had a feeling that we'd be getting the old Vic back since he dropped the track No More Tears a week prior to it. Surprisingly, it's not on here, but maybe that was just because he was trying to go for that Kanye homage with the 7 tracks. There may actually be more to that too, just given that the album art is kind of blurred out, similar to Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I'm just glad he's back and focused again. My favorite tracks are Vendetta, Machiavelli, Dirt on My Name, and Too Honest. Hopefully this tape reignites people's interest in Vic Mensa, because he's really talented and I feel like he deserves it. And I'm totally fine with him taking his time and taking some time off if he needs to, like in between albums, because if he comes back with music of this caliber, I'm all here for it. Anyways, that about wraps up my thoughts on this album. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of it, if you have listened to it. If you haven't, take some time to listen to it. It's only 26 minutes long. And then also remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more reviews and content like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.